So at 5:39, my fault for being late, we will call this meeting of the Communication Policy Committee together for the October 24th meeting. I believe that before us is the Student Safety and Violence Prevention Policy 539, otherwise known as the Bullying Policy. And with that, I will turn it over to the capable hands of Karen Fisher-Anderson to tell us what we're doing.
Alrighty. Well, first of all, you should have some paperwork in front of you. In your clipped versions, you should have been given a copy of the existing 539 policy, and I'm trying to see how you can tell that they're different. The old definition.
Karen?
The old.
Present at the committee meeting today is Jonathan Weinberg, Jim Richards, myself, Gina Cannon, and unfortunately, Dave Parker was not able to join us. For the administration, it's Kathleen Murphy, and the able Karen Fisher-Anderson. We're more than able. Okay, I'm sorry.
No.
I realized I didn't do that before.
Nope, that's fine. So you should have, they were paper clipped, two policies. They're actually the same policy, but one is the old 539 and one is the new revised recommended revisions. The way to tell them apart is the old statement under definitions section, the bullying is characterized by a power differential. That's the old one. If you look under definitions, under bullying. Okay.
It's okay, it's easy. The new one has highlighted yellow.
Oh, you guys are way ahead of me. Thank you, Bridget. Okay. The other thing I passed out, of course, was the bullying flow chart that I wanted you to see because I'd like, assuming you all like the policy, I wanted to give them a visual so people can look at it and get to the answer quickly, hopefully. And then before we jump in, I wanted to give you a little bit of history on where we've been with this policy. I know we've had it on the agenda for a while now, and my fault because we've been really busy on other policies. But year before last, it goes that far back, when we knew we were going to start working on our bullying policy, Donna Pally and myself, our two student reps from the school board, okay, and myself, we put together some student forums because we wanted to get student feedback on our existing policy, because when you look at it, it's very long, first of all, and a lot of people will say that, oh my gosh, it reads so legalese, what does this mean, okay? So we did that. We put together a bunch of forums. I think we did 5 in total, according to my notes, and what I did is I took all the notes from the different forums, and the girls were the student reps were the ones that facilitated the meetings, which was really great. And we divided up the policy into different sections. We handed it out to the students in advance, so they only got smaller sections, and said, please take a look at this, tell us what you think, tell us what you like, what you don't like. So we got their feedback. I have incorporated a lot of that feedback into the current revisions, which I'll point out as we go. But that was a large part of reasons we wanted to update it. The things that got worked on as part of the revision were some of the definition sections, reporting. There's some things there we'll hit on. Notice of audio and video recordings on buses and schools, and notice regarding the use of those videos, okay, because that's not included in our current version, excuse me. And then I wanted to point out that our new policy revisions include the MTSSB requirements that Governor Sununu signed into law. I think it was in July of 2021, that said for disciplinary reasons, we want to be sure that we're not just putting kids out for suspension, expulsion, so on and so forth. We want to use measures in between. So I try to incorporate those in here as well. So there's a lot of different stakeholders here. We've gathered a lot of information, and I'll try and do my best to identify where some of that information came from. Having said that it is a very legalese, that statute has a lot of legalese in it, it does. Just so you know, I know, Gina, you know this, but New Hampshire RSA 193 TAC F, as in Foxtrot, governs our bullying requirements under law. So what I did is I went back, I checked the RSAs, and I made sure that we met, or exceeded in some cases, all the requirements of the RSA, okay?
Thank you.
So we will look at that as we go as well. So I apologize in advance, it's pretty voluminous. The last thing I'll tell you is, like I always do, I like to shop other school districts to see what their policies look like, because sometimes more hands are better than just mine. I know that our superintendent was part of the bullying task force at one point, and so one of the policies that I pulled was from the Hampton School District, and they had last updated theirs on February 11th of 2020, so it was pretty recent revisions. So with all of that said, we'll jump in and see how we do. Okay, so the general statement of policy is fairly similar. I would like, in the revised copy, I apologize as I was going through this again and again, that first line where it says the school district is committed to providing all students with a safe, I have said secure and peaceful school environment. I'd like to just recommend, I wouldn't put and peaceful, but certainly the safe and secure. Otherwise, that language in the general statement of policy is that first paragraph is pretty consistent with the old policy, right? Where the second paragraph starts, this policy is intended to comply with RSA 193F. The new policy says all students and school-aged persons. One of the discussion points we had with the old policy is that it seemed to imply that it was applicable to students and then other members of the school community. So one of the questions was, well, does it apply to staff? In actuality, it does not. And really, when you go and you look at the title of the policy, it's student safety and violence prevention. So I wanted to make it clear that it's students and school-aged persons in that second paragraph. Okay? While on school district grounds or sponsored acts.
Quick question.
Sure.
So for school-age persons, since there are like extended learning programs like after school that are operated on the school grounds, are they included in this policy? And therefore, what is really the limitation and constraints of school age if individuals are all the way from 14 to 60 years old if they're completing their GED?
I don't think we do GED anymore.
In
for
Diploma
adults, do we?
Academy or
I thought
after?
community education got taken over. But this would be included, Jonathan, with all of the students currently enrolled or taking part in our school-age programs.
Okay.
So, for example, I think of our special education. I know that they just made the requirement by law through age, correct me, 22?
Yep.
Used to be 21, now it's
Got it.
22. So, but if they're in our plays, if they're in our athletics, any of the school-sponsored events or activities, they should be included.
Got it.
Okay? Great
Thank you.
question. Yep. You have, one of the things you have as the third paragraph is what we call the prohibition paragraph, which is required. In our old policy, it came in later, but I thought it's part of our general, policy, so I moved it up. But it is there, and it just puts everybody on notice that bullying is prohibited. And then it talks about the interventions, alternative dispute resolutions, restorative justice practices, so on and so forth. And that's your MTSSB language that I referred to just a minute ago that we can use. All right.
Karen, where are you? You lost me.
I'm still under general statement of policy,
okay.
Okay.
but I'm just in that last paragraph under
Okay.
1. Okay. So that was a new paragraph right there. All forms of bullying, cyberbullying, retaliation, and that's based on the MTSSB input. Okay.
So, Karen, when we're all done, I'll give you, because I'm a grammar police.
Yes,
So
please.
I will give you that afterwards.
Yep. Perfect.
Instead of stopping for, you need commas and you need a
That's perfect.
semicolon.
Yep. Yeah, Lyndon used to really be good at that. So, okay, so the last line is the superintendent is responsible for ensuring the policy is implemented. That's consistent, okay? Then we go down to definition section. I added some definitions under this section. Many of the ones that are there are consistent, okay? Like bullying, that's consistent with the exception, for example, of two things. One, in the new definitions, they had tried to use pupil instead of student. Under the RSA, we don't use pupil, so we went with student. And then two is it causes, where it says under Roman numeral 2, it says causes emotional distress, okay, to a student. That is new language, but it is part of 193F3. Okay, what I did is I took that definition, and so did Hampton, by the way, and further defined what emotional distress is. Okay, so that's new. But the other characteristic, or excuse me, the other factors, the 1 through 5, they're the same as what was in the old policy.
So what falls under materially?
Where are you? I'm sorry.
So materially impairs, what does materially impairs mean? As opposed to impairs.
Yes, and there's going to be some of those that we're going to have to look on a case by case. It just somehow it affects their ability more substantially to be able to take part in. Okay, it's sort of like the definition that says substantially disrupts the orderly operation of the educational whatever. What does substantially disrupt mean? We're hoping we get some guidance from the court on that in a case, but material impairs just means that it has more than just a minor.
Okay.
Well, and I think there also has to be some element of causative to material impair.
Okay.
It has to be causative. You can't just say, someone called me a name and now I'm afraid for my life.
Mm-hmm.
There has to be some kind of causative between, someone
The
saying.
action.
Anyway, my understanding of materially impairs is that it has to be the reason that it's being impaired.
So for
Bullying.
for like a
Yes.
scenario, if a student were to be like constantly like videotaped and then they felt afraid to be in a hallway, would that be an example of like materially impaired?
Yep.
Okay, got it. Thank you.
Yep.
Cause and effect.
Yep. And then we move down to that last little section on page 1 of 11, motivated by an imbalance of power, where it talks about bullying, actual or perceived personal characteristics, beliefs, so on and so forth. When you turn the page over and we start at the top of 2 TAC 11 in the new revised statute, when I looked at that wording, actual or perceived personal characteristics, I then tried to define that a little bit.
Do you guys have,
Further.
we're missing,
I
I'm
do.
missing
I have
every
one
other
for my old
page.
one.
I might be missing.
So I have page 1, 3,
Yeah, I have
5,
to.
7.
How about the
Yep.
ones I gave you that Bridget put
Last
together?
week I have the ones that we got last month that were in our folders from last month.
No, they should be in the new one, I hope. The ones I gave you with the clips on them?
Yeah.
Is that the new one?
Yep, they're missing all the
Here, let me get my
numbers.
computer.
Missing all
Sorry,
the,
you guys.
That's okay.
is it somewhere in the computer?
It probably would just be there, and it just
It
didn't
should
do
be.
double-sided. I'm guessing.
You want me to
Yes.
run upstairs and get
Here,
some
guys,
copies?
why don't you share this one? I've actually went through
Well,
this with a
we-
fine-tooth comb earlier today.
Well, let me look
So y'all
at,
can-
Okay.
I can
If
just
you're
go
willing to
there, no worries.
share
It
resources.
should be the one in your folder then, right?
Probably. Thank you.
Yep.
That's okay.
So, I'll wait till you're all there on the new ones.
I mean, if you find it in your computer, I'll take my hard copy back, but if you
I'm
don't, there's a
looking.
hard copy to share. Although you'll have to,
Well, we would've gotten through it faster.
Would've.
you'll have to blip over my
just
grammar
go-
comments.
Let's just go with the odd numbers. Deal with the even ones next time. Sorry.
Well, while we're
So
doing
is-
That day.
Okay, this one is, I think, fine, but not highlighted.
while we're doing this, I did have a question for the
Sure.
first page
Yes.
anyway, so that seems
So you're
like
good.
this
I
would be a
have
good
it.
opportunity to do that. So I noticed that on the bottom of page 1, it talks about kind of what actions would be included, and it says like this includes behavior motivated by race, color,
Yeah,
national
that's-
origin. I was curious, do we differentiate? I know we have a discrimination policy as well. like differentiate bullying based in race, sexual orientation, like gender identity, that can be like categorized as like hate crimes outside of an educational setting, or are those?
Race could be, ethnicity could be, but you bring a great, those are all what you call protected classes,
Yes.
Jonathan, under the law. And so when we talk about characteristics, those are some of those characteristics that could cause somebody to be bullied.
Okay.
And that's why I added those
Okay.
at the top. Now, again, over to you all if you think it's too much for the policy. I just wanted to be as complete as I
Yeah.
could and figured you all could tell me, nope, too much.
I
but
actually liked seeing it,
Okay.
for what it's worth. The list.
Of the protected behaviors. You didn't get them on the top of your page?
Which ones are you talking about? Are you talking about those lists of,
Behavior motivated by race, color.
oh, I have that
Yeah.
right here.
I'm sorry.
No, I have it.
Yeah, so those are what we call the protected classes, and yes, those are consistent with what is in our non-discrimination
Okay.
policy. So, then you move down and.
But to answer Jonathan's question, I don't think they're by definition hate crimes. I
No.
don't think that's the list that constitutes.
Race is normally, the hate crimes are normally, correct me, Gina, I think the race, they can be when I do the bullying presentation, a lot of it, the protected classes could all, I suppose, be hate crimes. But the one that I see a lot is the race.
Well, there's race, there's national origin,
Ethnicity.
or ethnicity,
Yep.
sex, sexual orientation. I don't know that it's disability. I don't think I personally think it should, but I don't think it's disability is included in a
Or
hate crime.
obesity.
I think obesity is not. I don't know. Some have gender identity and expression, some don't.
And I guess, so the question is, would this be the policy in which we'd integrate kind of those ideas, or does that not need to be necessarily integrated into the policy, saying
Well,
these?
I'm not sure that we're in the business on the
Okay.
board of defining hate crimes.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay.
I mean, I think
This
if we think
just-
it's a hate crime, we have to call the police.
This
The
just
police
tells us.
will decide that.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
cool. Thank you.
Okay.
So now we're at bullying can include but is not limited to. Okay, so one of the things I promised I'd bring to your attention is there are some examples there of what can constitute, and the kids wanted examples. They're like, well, what does physical mean? So now I will tell you that I met with the elementary principals last week, and by the way, most of this was in the old policy, the examples, but they didn't like it. They said they felt like our bullying instruction was written more towards middle school and elementary school because many of these behaviors are part of developmental behaviors, and so they felt that maybe by putting them in there, we were inviting more scrutiny, because a lot of parents will call and say my child's being bullied, when indeed it may not be bullying, but if it's slapping and we say slapping, hitting, it ties us to something that they want to be able to do their own assessment of. So even though it was in our old policy and the students wanted guidance on, okay, what does that mean as far as what can be included in bullying, I said I would bring that to the attention of the board.
Well, what if we did something, and again, we have to be so careful because we have an underlying RSA that we've got to follow.
Right.
But not all pushing is bullying. You know, there could be pushing because you're in line to get to the water fountain in elementary school, or you're pushing on the playground as you're jostling to stand in line to get into the building in the morning. How about something like hitting, slipping, slapping, pushing, or other blah blah blah, with the intent of
Causing
Intent to
bodily
harm.
causing
Yeah.
bodily harm, or causing emotional harm, or reinforcing power, unequal power dynamic. I mean,
Yeah.
you and I go running for the ball,
No,
and
I
I
like
push
the
you
phrase.
right before you get there because I want the ball. That's not bullying. That it's not great behavior, but it's But
And I
it's-
think the intent is like the big important piece to bring up there as well.
yeah. I mean, I think the intent to reinforce the power. I don't know. I'm not great at trying to.
Yeah, I asked them to come up with some verbiage because they were concerned about, age appropriate,
Yep.
developmental, which goes to your intent.
Right.
But,
Right.
so if I understand, you don't mind the examples, you just want them to be more specific to a specific intent to do what
Bodily
the
harm.
negative behaviors, the bodily
Yeah,
harm,
yeah.
or the
Because, I mean,
or damage to
again,
property.
I might push Jonathan, because I want to get into the kickball first.
Yep,
It's not intended to bully Jonathan, it's intended to get me the ball.
got it. Okay, so I'll put a note in there.
Does that make sense, guys?
Yeah.
Okay,
But I mean, I think to some extent, it goes back to a conversation we had, a year ago, that there's gotta be some kind of adult discretion and judgment being used, instead of, this no tolerance policy that there's a black and white, because you got kids,
right.
Well,
and as our policy says, what happens is we get 5 days to look at the what happened, who, what, when, where.
the totality.
And decide, the principal, the assistant principal, the investigator, does this constitute bullying, okay? But I think, as I said, the consensus was this kind of specificity may lend itself to being able to be relied on by a parent that says, you said slapping.
Right, well, that's why I say with the intent
Yeah,
to.
no, I gotcha. So I've made a note to that, I'll add that in
And
there.
I forgot to bring this up when I was asking about the protective classes and some of the details. Is there a reason religion is not included in there?
Oh,
Could be, absolutely.
it should.
Oh, it should be in there, I think.
Absolutely
Yeah.
should.
Religion should be.
Thank you, Jonathan,
Ethnicity.
nice
Thank
catch.
you.
Thank you.
Wasn't that in the original bill?
It might have been in
No,
the
it wasn't,
original, and
because
not in the
it
next
wasn't
iteration.
in this language really came out of the discrimination one, so it could have been me moving back and forth, but I will add religion as well.
Yes.
Thank you.
I thought it was in there.
I did too, because
I read through it and I sort of,
I read
I sort of
it, it
put
wasn't
it in,
in
I
there.
read it even though it wasn't there,
My brain
yeah.
just added it
That's what
in.
Yeah.
happens. Yep.
So that's a good catch, thank you.
Learning disabilities. Yep. Okay, so, and that clearly is one of those protected classes, so good catch. Okay. Then cyberbullying was discussed in our old policy, okay, but there they really, and I will be honest and tell you, that is probably where I spend the majority of my bullying case time, is on cyberbullying. So in the old policy, we just said it's prohibited, and we said that it involves, electronic devices, and we named those electronic devices. But I did give them examples under cyberbullying. So those examples are all new. Okay?
Yep.
The
So I have an issue with unkind content and how vague that's getting and how close that might be getting to protected speech.
what was
I just want to raise that issue.
what was the ruling by the? I forgot the ruling by the Supreme Court regarding the student that posted on Snapchat. What was?
You mean the cheerleader?
Yeah. Oh wait, where they invoked the F word? Was that?
Well, she raped. Yeah, she did this
What-
to the.
what did they
said
decide?
It was free speech. It was on her personal
Free speech.
device. It was off school property.
Okay.
So.
I was scared. But I agree, Gina. I guess it could be more specific, but
Well, I'm afraid to use the word unkind because that's very subjective.
Where are you? I'm sorry.
Oh, look, where are we?
It's the third
Oh,
bullet.
seeing
cyberbullying, the second bullet post. Posting or sharing negative, harmful, false, or unkind content.
Yeah. Well, we could get rid of unkind. We could say negative, harmful, false. But even rumors on social media can be a form of bullying.
I don't disagree. I'm just saying I think I'm feeling like I'm slogging through waist high mud. I don't know where unkind becomes
Okay.
what I consider unkind. You don't, or again, I'm worried, and I'm worried about how that rubs up against First Amendment rights to say,
Okay, do y'all want to strike unkind?
I don't know. I just wanted to bring it up. don't necessarily want to strike it, I just,
I think you make a good point. I think it's hard to define what unkind is, and a comment that somebody makes about a person, I don't like the color of your hair, is an unkind comment, but yet does that really reach a point of bullying? Because I made it, and I perceive it as being unkind. How could you possibly? You know what I'm saying? So I think there is a fine line there. I do. I don't think you need it when you have sharing negative, harmful, false content about another person. I don't think you need it.
I could substitute that with violent, but that might fall under harmful or
Yeah,
such.
Right.
yeah. It's somewhat redundant,
well,
but
then we have the same problem with mean texts.
I was gonna say, it's mean text, that's false or unkind content if, hey, if,
yeah, but you could be
I
saying something
wear-
about somebody that they perceive as unkind, but it isn't like a bullying issue.
but if someone makes fun of my clothing because it is hand-me-down, old, not as fashionable, and can bully someone in that way, that's not negative,
that.
or it's not, might be negative, but it's not false. So how do you get that? This is kind of getting into bullying, is, I can't define it, but I know it when I see it.
I think you have to go back to the power
That's the
differential.
definition of pornography.
Yes,
We
I
don't want to
know,
go anywhere
I
near
know.
that.
Yeah.
I know, I'm getting into that kind of a thing, but, it takes a judgment. When is unkind bullying? Probably when it's
And that's why you
repetitive
see in this,
or
why you see
pervasive.
disagreement in terms of what one person perceives as bullying and another doesn't, and that's why it's so difficult at times, for that very reason.
But again, I think you go back to, with the intent to reinforce the power differential that forms what bullying's all about.
Yep.
Would it be like, what if we put unprovoked before the mean? Because I feel like part of it is about how it's being instigated and how, like you were talking about, the power differential. And if a student is not initiating or not, and I'm not saying anyone should be, but I'm saying I feel like unprovoked could be a part that could maybe help.
Yeah, and then again, maybe trying to define more opens it up to more confusion in a way.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not
So-
saying I have the
No, that's
solution,
fair.
I'm just
Yeah.
saying it.
So,
odd.
no
Problematic.
good deed goes
So odd.
unpunished kind of
Right.
thing here?
Yeah.
I am kind of falling towards what Gina's saying, is it's intent and
It is intense.
effect too. It's also
It's also
also-
effect.
effect, right?
Yeah.
Not just,
I mean, I have a great example. My best friend and I in high school used to call each other wimps all the time. Now, back then, that was a huge slur. But for us, there was no unkind intent. We were, calling like, you jerk. No, you're the jerk. No, and in fact, it was like, you're the wimp. No, I'm the wimp. No, you're the wimp. But it has to do with intent and context, and effect.
What if I said may include, but are not limited to?
I think that's helps you.
And
That way you do the assessment on the individual facts.
and
Yeah. I think, go ahead, Jenna.
well, I guess so. For the first, I was going to ask about the circulating inappropriate or embarrassing photos or videos via email. Like, I understand the inappropriate section. For the embarrassing, should it say without the
Consent.
originator's consent?
Express written consent of the
Yeah.
the individuals involved. That gets a little.
Yeah, see, then I think we start trying to define so many
In
instances.
instances, yeah, yeah.
Because what
Yeah.
I did is I pulled up cyberbullying, looked for examples.
No, that's fair.
So,
Yeah. Well, the
and
thing is,
again, it's the totality of the circumstances.
Right. So you may get around that by doing the may include but are
May
not
include.
necessarily limited to.
So add may.
What do you think?
well, it says examples of cyberbullying include but are not limited to, and then that.
Yeah.
So do we have it covered? May,
Right.
it includes that. It's not limited to that, and it's hard to really get this definition. because, you know,
There's
And some of it's
nuance.
how it's
I can,
perceived.
and it's context, you know? If I sit there and say, hey, gorgeous, gorgeous, you know, I'm like bullying you, but I'm saying a positive,
That'd be more sexual harassment.
that would be more sexual harassment.
For the
Okay, so.
But we might be
maybe.
able to put it in the bullying lane
well,
too.
for the
Shouldn't say it.
unwelcome instant messages, that part did confuse me. What is the instant messages?
Wait, instant messages, the best one I can give you is,
Instant messenger,
yeah,
we don't
they
use that anymore as
Snapchat.
kids.
Run away.
Snapchat, Twitter.
Oh, that's what we mean. What we
What about
Snapchat?
TikTok?
The thing that disappears.
Oh,
Instagram.
That's Snapchat.
Is that Instagram?
Oh, is that, see, I'm
Yeah.
woefully,
no. Well, I know that. Yeah.
I
Okay.
think we needed a general term for all of those.
Okay, no, that's fair.
apps.
That's fair. No, that's
Maybe
fair.
it's,
So you just call them.
I was just- that's what I was curious
Yeah,
about. Okay.
yeah,
so
yeah,
are
yeah.
they instant or just electronic or digital?
I think they pop up, but then they disappear after a certain amount of time.
Yeah, on
Yeah.
Snapchat
Well, the
they
ones-
Unless somebody.
The ones
sits
that
there-
pop up and don't disappear are equally bullying, I think.
Well, but what the kids do is when they're sitting there and they're part of an Instagram
Yeah.
chat
Yeah.
and they see something, they'll take a picture of it.
Oh, I know. You can, you just screenshot it, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's the word. Screenshot it. So may include, but or just scrap the examples.
No, I still think I think you're actually covered with include or may include, but are not limited to.
I agree.
I think
Okay.
that's
I
good.
agree.
May include. Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
It's a difficult topic to nail down because
Yeah.
technology is changing and the way that people communicate are constantly evolving and changing.
Yeah. Okay, so then I defined electronic devices, and that we just hit on those. School property, I wanted to define that because we also include school buses, and now that we're going to be looking at audio, visual, that's part of our videos down the road. Those are usually on the school bus, although we do have them in buildings as well. But important to know, a lot of the bullying that I see on videos comes off the school buses.
Do designated volunteers, if a student is traveling in their vehicle, would that be categorized as a school vehicle for that purpose at that time?
Well, I would say they shouldn't be unless they have express written permission.
Not like under that exact
But
circumstance.
the designated volunteer.
They're not school property.
So
And
would
we don't insure them.
No,
okay.
no.
So, the insurance and traveling with kids is on there.
Okay.
So it's, strictly voluntary and it's not what we would,
But that wouldn't fall under that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Then I define school-sponsored property or activity because it's used later on in the instruction. Okay, I wanted retaliation is defined under, and it's talked about under 193F4. Obviously defined here. If yours says report of sexual harassment, I apologize. It should say bullying or for participating in an investigation in that first line. The retaliation is discussed later in the policy, but I pulled it forward as a definition for consistency's sake.
I'm sorry, where are you?
Yeah, where-
Retaliation,
where are
the
you?
definition.
We don't have that on our,
Oh, do we move on to page 3?
That's,
I'm still on 2 of 11.
nope, we don't have
No.
that.
Oh, we don't have that.
I don't know
Not-
what she used.
on page 2 of 11, where is
Yeah, we go from
retaliation? We have
school-
statement of prohibition.
School-sponsored activity and then statement of prohibition. Here, Karen, look at mine.
at the old one.
Are you looking at the old one?
Oh, the
maybe?
old one, it has it on it. Retaliation defined, but it's not on the new one.
How come?
This is the new one that you just gave us.
Because this is the new.
Retaliation comes under 4.
No, but on the old one, it's under
2 of
2.
8, yeah. Just a different
Where is
paging.
it?
just,
By the way, in electronic,
you know, remember, it,
We need to include pagers. Just
Yeah,
any
mine's got it.
pager.
remember, this
I've never
changed
heard
to a
of
whole
a
thing of
student user.
retaliation is on
They haven't used
311.
pagers since 1990 something.
You have a whole section on
Retaliation.
retaliation.
You have a new
Right,
section.
but
We
I had-
didn't put it, we pulled it
I might
from
cut
that.
that out.
Definitions?
The definition,
This is a
yeah,
tough
but
one to
you
define.
do, but that's why I pulled it forward because it lines up with all of these other suggested definitions.
Right, well.
I'm sorry, you guys. I don't, it is the same definition there.
Yeah, well, you just have the definition over.
We could just make
It's
sure it
right
gets.
over there on the,
On page 3?
Page
Yeah.
3.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's under the retaliation section, so
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
one of the, because it says false reporting or retaliation.
Mhm.
So what I did for formatting purposes was pull that piece of it just the definition section forward under definitions.
Right.
If you don't want it there, we can leave it right where it
It's
is, or we
okay.
can just make the change.
So the paragraph that says retaliation is any adverse action taken against the student under item 4, is that what you're talking about?
Yes, that
Okay.
first,
Paragraph.
first paragraph is exactly what got pulled up to the definition
It's
section.
okay, we can do that, I'm
Okay.
okay with that.
Are you okay?
Going back.
And then does it
yeah.
leave it on
Organization.
page 3 as well?
It does no, it's on page 2 underneath school-sponsored
Okay, so
program
that-
or activity.
Okay, it's physically moved to definition section.
Karen, going back to electronic devices, I think you can take pagers out of there.
Take what out?
Pagers, I don't really know anybody who uses a pager anymore.
Got it. Eliminate pagers.
You don't think they're making a comeback?
They could, you never know. But I think
Okay,
we're safe leaving that out.
eliminate. Okay.
Gina, do you disagree? Do you
No,
know
I was
people
just
use
gonna say,
pagers?
if Jonathan thinks they're making a comeback, I
That was a
have,
joke.
I
I'm
have
sorry.
3 in my old desk drawer of extra electronic devices that, you know, I'm happy to have find a home.
Yeah, we could take the pagers and file that under the same section as Blackberries. and-
I guess the one thing I would say,
Bombs.
and not getting too nitpicky, should it say instant messaging apps? Because if we're thinking about like Snapchat, Instagram, they would be like
Yeah, I think what the intent was is to give it a big category, you know, an umbrella
Umbrella.
description of those Snapchats and all the other ones that are technically instant messages.
just messages.
You know, I think that's what
Broad.
they did. They made it into like an umbrella statement.
Okay.
That's why it's in quotes.
I can make sure. Yeah, that's the same thing Hampton used as well.
Okay.
What's that?
Telephones, cellular phones,
Yeah.
computers, they've got pagers
I
too.
thought we took pages out.
Electronic mail,
Ooh.
instant messaging.
I think our custodian still, our head facilities guy still used a pager.
Well, they're
But this
not
doesn't
of,
include
they're not of school
employees.
age,
Yeah,
so.
there you go.
Okay.
Yeah, that's it. No one who's school age.
And
is
that's
using
true.
them.
Well, why would the kids have it? Well, I suppose, did they ever have pages, the kids?
Oh, yeah.
1990s they did.
Did they?
Yeah.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah.
Now, on your copy, do you all next have supportive measures?
No.
We go straight from
Yeah.
school-sponsored activities to number 3, statement of prohibition.
Statement of prohibition.
I don't know what happened. I didn't.
Okay, so can we blip over definitions and go to statement of
Yeah.
prohibition?
Yeah, we
and
can, or I can just tell you, that's the last one.
Okay.
It's supportive measures. Now, I added this in, and the reason I added it in is, you know, in school policies, in the model policies, they give you the floor. This is what must be included. By district, you can tailor it to your specific needs, okay? I can tell you that that's one of the things that I teach and really push is that we look at, once a report is made, we look immediately to see what we can do to support the students, both the victim and the perpetrator, while the investigation is ongoing, prior to any determination of substantiation or not. Examples of that are listed there, like counseling. We could do a schedule modification. We might even have a no contact order while we're waiting, similar to what we do with sexual harassment investigations. So it's on our bullying, as I said, it's part of what we do. It is on the bullying, and it says if necessary, supportive measures, it's in the yellow at the very top, put in place for both parties. That's determined, as I said, by the assistant principals when they first get a complaint and they go, okay, if these 2 students are in 3 of the same classes, what are we gonna do to be sure everybody can get to class while we look at this? They may move a scheduler in one temporarily, they may put somebody in one of the commons while the class is going on. They have 10 days to investigate.
Would they offer that to the student, or would they just make that decision?
Normally, they would, it depends on which student. They don't always just move the victim. They would look to see what the consequence is, you know, to the schedules overall. But they will always ask.
They'll always ask. Okay.
Always
Okay,
ask.
so this is kind of a definition section of the part that says, under retaliation or right before reporting procedures, suggestions include but are not limited to schedule modifications, increased monitoring,
Yep.
or supervision while in school. Do you guys have that on page
On which page?
3 at the bottom? Right above Roman numeral 5, reporting procedures.
Yeah.
So do you see where, 1, 2, 3, 4?
Shall implement a
fifth
plan or
line-
support measures.
Fifth line that starts process or plan. And then over on the right, if you start with suggestion include but are not limited to.
Yeah.
So is that sort of where that list of supportive measures came from?
Correct.
Okay.
On that one, let me see. So the first one would be counseling, then class, course, or schedule modifications.
This has schedule modifications, increased monitoring or supervision while in school, mutual restrictions on contact between the parties, a safety escort to and from classes, stern warnings. No, not the same. Okay.
Some of them are.
I was
See,
trying to
that's gonna
find it for
be-
you, Karen.
That could be part of the remedial interventions too. So, yeah, that is pretty close to what is here, but I just, I
Not the same.
apologize. I don't
Okay.
know what happened here.
Lost in translation.
Well, it could be, I worked on this a long time ago with Lyndon too, and I'm not sure which version. This was the latest one. It could be that the earlier version was pulled, but.
Anyway,
So, okay, well, on the definition then of, do you want the supportive measures in there, or, as I said, it's above and beyond, but we do them.
I like them, but I'd want to read it.
What do you mean? That's it, the counseling.
Oh, it's just on the bottom.
no.
They are include but are not limited to
Go ahead.
counseling, class, course, or schedule modifications, increased monitoring or supervision. Okay, so that may be that, somebody shows up and sits in a class for a little while, or we send an educational assistant, whatever. Mutual restrictions on contact between the parties, which could be a no contact, and then a safety escort. Tutoring and or a leave of absence.
Okay.
So if you had to pull somebody out of the class and they were so upset by this, because remember, bullying can cross over to a lot of different things. It could be bullying based on sexual harassment, which could then be Title IX, it's all these other things. So those are just some of the possibilities for accommodations that could be put into place.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I think you just
Yeah,
need
just
to be
put it
very,
in under supportive
you can put it in there. I just think you need to be very careful of those things because, you pull someone who is falsely accused out for 10 days and now we're looking at a lawsuit against us for inhibiting that kid's education.
Well, we always have to make sure they're still getting it. In other words, if we pull them down to Commons A, the work comes with. If it's severe, we would have a tutor.
Okay. I just want to make sure we're careful on
No,
that
I hear you. It's an important one.
because false accusations are not unheard of.
And we address those in here too.
Okay.
So that's it on the definition section. Okay. Then we move on, is your next section the statement of prohibition?
Yes.
Yay! All right. And those are all listed under 193F4 2D, and that's pretty much the same as the old instruction. Okay, so we're good there. We then move on to section 4, Roman numeral 4, retaliation defined and plan to protect students from retaliation.
It's all pretty much
It's the same except for the first paragraph, which I put in the definition section. Okay, so it would start with the consequences, right? Then it goes to the second, any student found to have engaged, same paragraph from the old instruction. Any teacher, school administrator, or district employee found to have engaged in reprisal or retaliation could be subject to discipline, including termination.
Okay, hold on. Where are you?
That should still be under retaliation.
It's like
defined.
paragraph 1, 2, 3,
Four.
4.
Got it. Okay, thank you.
Now that is new language. It is mirrored out of the Hampton school policy because it also includes reprisal by any adult who may be, potentially reprising against a student who even may be bullied by another student. So it extends to students and volunteers. So teacher, school administrator, district employee, volunteer.
Yep.
So that's new to this policy, to ours, okay? The next one, if an alleged victim or any witness expresses to the principal or other staff member, hopefully that's your next paragraph.
Quick-
That's old.
Quick question. So I know the beginning of this policy with the general statement discusses that this kind of protects all students and school-age persons. Does the retaliation section where if, say, a student retaliated against an employee kind of contradict with that?
No,
They're not-
that's
No.
not covered here. This is
No,
if an
it's just-
employee retaliates against a student.
Right.
I-
But
think
it
if
says
I-
a student or employee by another student or employee, which means that it could be like, the way that that's phrased to me, it could be adverse action is taken against an employee by another student.
Okay, I'm missing where you are, John.
Yeah, I am too.
The first sentence, retaliation is any adverse
Oh,
action
it's on-
taken
Oh, you're
against
on the
a
first
student
page.
or employee by another student or employee. I don't know if one of those should be an
Oh, yeah,
and.
probably, it should be, the first or employee should probably be gone, because my understanding is
Yeah.
that this policy is not
Well,
applicable
that was my
to
question.
any employee, to any adult, basically, as the victim of this. So, where we're
Right.
looking is right underneath, the bold retaliation,
Yep,
which was moved to your definition section. Retaliation is any adverse action taken against a student or employee by another student or employee. My understanding is that that first or employee isn't covered by, do you not, you're looking at something else?
it's not what mine says.
Okay,
So, under the definition of retaliation.
yep, what do you have?
It's an adverse action against a student or employee for making a good faith report of bullying or for participating in an investigation.
Okay, but Jonathan's point was retaliation is an action taken against an employee, right? But
If
this
the-
doesn't cover employees
So
as
if,
victims, whether
so-
it's bullying or retaliation.
But the reprisal would be by the employee against the student for reporting in this instance.
Okay, then I guess
So,
I'm not
I guess it's
understanding your
not,
definition.
it's not written very well. The student or employee for making a good faith report of bullying or for participating. So
Nope, go
You're
back to
right.
the one before that, the or employee before that.
I only have one.
So it might be a typo where it's just written twice.
well,
Okay, let me,
I only have one sentence.
so
that
if
says-
you as the teacher report the fact that I'm bullying someone else,
And then the student
Or
retaliates.
employee for
then
making
there's no
efforts to
punishment for the
improve.
student? Retaliation is allowed.
Well, that's why I just didn't know if we need to then change the beginning part in order to
Yeah, I
include.
don't know.
So, I don't
Kathleen,
have
do you
that.
see what we're
Okay.
talking about?
Yeah,
Yeah, I
Yep.
do.
So,
so
In the-
strike by another student or employee.
I don't.
why?
Because it's not, it wasn't.
Well, that's not what's in Karen's version.
But I think
Is
it
any
brings up.
adverse action taken against a
You think
student
this
or
is some
employee for
misinformation?
making a
making.
good, for,
I don't know
Okay.
what she pulled. I told her to pull the latest one,
Yeah,
and I think she might have.
yeah.
so it can be by anyone?
It could, the intent of that was, even though a student comes in and reports I'm being retaliated against, it could be a potentially, let's say they're in a class and a teacher or employee knows them, let's say it's a teacher, and somehow is retaliating against them for simply having made the report against another student.
So that part would not be included in this policy because this is protection of,
It's students. The employee is retaliating against the student.
In
Student,
that.
so it is student.
but if a student retaliates against an employee. that
The way
wouldn't-
this is written is the adverse action is taken against the employee. Retaliation is an adverse action taken against the employee. They're not the protected party in here.
So we would just remove
So
or
in that
employee.
case, but wait a second, make sure you're doing it right. So in that case, if Kathleen reports that I bullied Jonathan, and I take out retaliation on Kathleen, I'm protected.
No, it's
It's
just
not in
not
the
this,
product.
it's not in this policy. There's another policy.
Okay, there's another policy against that?
So maybe,
Is
okay,
there?
so take out
Is there?
employee. So just any adverse action taken against a student for making a good faith report.
But
Well,
Bullying.
no, but that's, what happens if that basically tells me as a teacher, I'm not gonna make a report because I could be retaliated against and I'm not protected.
is there another policy that protects teachers in that
Teachers?
instance?
It's more harassment. It's not, we don't have a separate adult bullying policy. It falls under harassment.
Should we
So-
then include them in the general statement of policy for this area, or?
Don't want to disincentivize a teacher or any other staff person of reporting bullying because they're afraid of a group of kids retaliating against them.
Yeah, but that's not addressed in the statute. I hear what you're saying. But I think if we're that I'm afraid we may be trying to cover all instances. I don't see any of that in the statute itself.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? I hear what you're getting at. You're thinking a group of students who were reprising against employees somehow?
Yes.
How would they do that?
How would they do that?
Yeah. Examples of retaliation. How would they affect
Telling
false reports?
telling their parents to call the school and fire the teacher but like a concerted effort.
But
I
that
guess.
may be a false report.
So when the teacher who reported the fact that we bullied this person walks out of their classroom and we surround that teacher, because there's 6 of us, and we are 6'2" and 250 pounds. You don't think that's any sort of retaliation? You ratted us out. It's none of your business. Yeah, I don't want that happening. I mean, I don't know if it belongs in this policy.
Yeah, 'cause it's
And I don't know if
student
that's how it
safety.
is. But that's the way I read
I-
the adverse action taken against a student or employee by another student or employee. That's the only instance of where that wording may be,
Yeah.
Good.
would
But I
say
don't know if
students
it's covered
are bullying,
somewhere
they
else.
just happen to be bullying against an adult. I don't know if that's,
Yeah.
it may be a different policy, it may be a
yeah.
disciplinary, something else, but I just wanted to make sure that we,
So just for clarification, we're gonna remove the. Well, I don't know, Karen.
Or
It doesn't
what-
say in yours. I think.
Mine says retaliation is any adverse action taken against a student, and it currently says or employee. So I'm
Okay,
recommending
removing.
you strike
Yeah,
or
great.
employee for making a good faith report of bullying or for participating in an investigation.
Got it. And then a quick second question
that's
on
fine.
false reporting. It says intentionally accused another person of bullying. Do we need to then edit that person to be less vague, to say student?
Are you jumping ahead?
Oh, I'm jumping
Going
back.
back.
Going
You're
back.
going back.
Coming back, actually.
To false reporting, the first sentence, any student found to have wrongfully and intentionally accused another person of bullying. Do we need to make that person more specific as well?
Not seeing false reporting. Here, it's further on in mine. I think maybe you guys, I apologize, I'm just afraid.
Jonathan, read that again?
My false reporting is on page 8 of 11.
Okay, so what it says is under false reporting, any student found to have wrongfully and intentionally accused another person of bullying may face discipline, etc. I just didn't know after this discussion if we wanted to specify exactly person or designate them student, etc.
Well, the following one says any school employee found to have wrongfully and intentionally accused a student. So,
But it doesn't apply. And see, I have false reporting up here on mine, but we could change, and it's only student there.
It's only student.
But no, I didn't know if it says accused another person. So person could then be anyone in the building.
So you're saying it should be another student.
That's what I'm
Yeah.
suggesting.
well, no, because
Because it is
if the student has to be the victim, not necessarily the student has to be the accused bully. Do you know what I'm saying? So let's say
Oh, yeah, they
teacher
could accuse
X
someone else.
bullies student Y, or let's say doesn't, but student Y says teacher X bullied me.
So this does protect teachers then?
It's
Well,
not
no,
meant
because
to.
this has
It's
to do
not.
with the student.
Yeah.
This has to do with the false reporting by the student
Right.
and what the consequences are. This doesn't protect the teacher at all.
But does this person need to be affiliated with the school district?
Yes, for us to be able
Yes.
to take any action.
Yeah, I don't
And it
have
has
any-
to
So
occur
let's say
on
it's
school
not a
property.
teacher, it's a lunch lady or a janitor or a bus driver or
Could be anybody.
could be anybody, anybody that's on school property.
Yeah, that's a good.
Do we
good
wanna-
point. It would be a bus driver. Let's say a kid gets on the bus and is threatening the bus driver, or you know.
well, that comes back sort of to
Do
the
we
teacher
want-
thing, threatening the teacher.
Do we want to specify that?
I don't know.
I don't. I just think person's very vague. And I know that
Yeah.
that's part of the intention.
No, I think you're right. I mean, it's gotta have some kind of, that person's gotta have some kind of nexus to the school
Like
district.
school related.
Like, you can't just say, yeah, my next door neighbor.
This one Hampton just says found to wrongfully and intentionally accused another of bullying. So they don't even define individual, they just say another.
So if I'm at the football game with my friend
Brad.
Jonathan, and a bunch of students bully Jonathan, then that's okay, because he's not a student. He's from another school district.
No, he's a school-age person.
That's not in this definition. That's, if we put school-age person, then it would be in that definition.
But
I
we
think
do
we might
put
need
that
a
in the
rewrite here.
definitions, though. We
Statement
did put
I
that
think,
in.
I think that could be, yeah.
Okay,
Here's what the statute says directly. It says a statement prohibiting retaliation or false accusation against a victim, a witness, or anyone else who in good faith provides information about an act of bullying or cyberbullying, and at the time a report is made, a process for developing as needed a plan to protect pupils from retaliation. So it is only pupils for sure, but so it's a false accusations against a victim, witness, or anyone else who provides information on bullying or cyberbullying.
Even the law doesn't agree with it. It's any person, and then down below it only reflects on pupils. Even the law doesn't make sense.
so
Victim witness.
I'm gonna suggest something, and y'all can shoot me down if you want, but we've got enough confusion
Yeah.
by paragraphs that are missing or
Yeah,
jumping
this
around
is-
or are not in. Do we wanna, I hate to say it, but do we wanna call this
Oh, I would.
and come
Back
back
to
with
it.
a?
I think we have to.
I think so.
I
to
don't,
come back
I
with.
mean,
It's
I
just
hate to be
too hard to
awful,
read.
but it's,
No,
we're,
it's too-
we're not all on the same page,
Yep.
so we can't hammer out what we're talking about because we're not all looking at it.
Yeah.
Right.
That's okay, that's why we're
That's why
sitting
we're
here
here.
tonight, because it's not
No,
an
I know,
easy
but I just-
policy, but I agree. It's not an easy policy, and it may take us another time after next time.
I agree.
do it.
I mean, I
hard.
know I spent weeks on this.
Yeah.
Well, and we did make a
Really?
couple.
We can't
did
get through it
into
in
a
one
couple-
night, Kathleen?
We did get into a couple pages of it, so I've got the ones you've already
Yeah.
commented on. So I'll take those. I'll go back and make sure that figure out why things got changed on different versions and bring it back.
And where's the school board policy on this?
What do you mean? That's this one, 539?
A school board policy, is that?
Yeah, this is
The current one?
Current one.
This is
Yeah.
the current one, yeah.
That's the current one from the New Hampshire School Board Association.
Oh,
No.
no, that was,
There's-
you forgot to say New Hampshire.
Yeah, I was.
policy.
The
You
one
just
that,
said school board policy, so,
I meant New Hampshire
yeah,
School
Yeah.
Board policy.
what's New
right?
Hampshire doing?
let me see, false reporting, it's in here too. This is.
This
the
is
old
it.
one.
This says it corresponds to NHSBA policy
Yeah,
JICK.
I know. I wanna see it again.
Yeah, let's,
What a mess. Investigation, looking for false reporting. It just says another. A student, it's in our old policy, a student found to have intentionally falsely accused another of bullying may face discipline or other consequences, ranging from positive intervention, behavioral interventions up to including suspension or expulsion.
Yeah, I think the biggest issue behind that was when one student complained that somebody had bullied them, and then this retaliation by the person who did the bullying. I think that's where the issues always come up. You know, the person that, you know, the victim, if you will, that reported it. And now they're at the, you know, they're retaliated. That was the intent. It's always been the intent.
Okay, yeah, but I'm looking at the false reporting. So, but it's consistent with, yeah, what's been in there, so. Okay,
let's come back and take a look at it.
Yeah. Well, I think it, yeah, okay. Yep, that was yicky.
yeah, I'm sorry, you guys.
No worries. I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Oh, do we have anything else? No?
No, because we knew that one was gonna
Then
take
I will-
long, we only put one on.
Then I'll second that motion.
Okay.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, then the meeting stands adjourned at 6,
I had
Close enough to
6:39 on my phone.
close enough to 6:40.
There you go.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right.